Peter knows, and the Spirit through Peter knows it's only going to get worse. And we know that, AD 64, it got really, really bad. So Peter challenges them to stay faithful to Jesus. They are to live as sojourners and exiles. They are to live as if they belong to another place. So Peter, he begins a new section of the letter tonight, and it's the last section of the letter. Again, our student pastor, Josiah, is going to finish our study next week through 1 Peter while we're on vacation. He's going to do a fantastic job. But tonight, Peter is bringing it all together. Everything that we've read and studied up to this point, he's brought it all together in just these 8 verses. And if you missed any of those previous lessons, they were all on our YouTube page, Mosaic Young Adults. So Peter tells them first, he says, do not be surprised. Do not be surprised when the test of fire comes to you. That's what it literally says in the Greek, the test of fire. Last week, Peter said that unbelievers, those who don't follow Jesus, they are surprised when we don't join them in their sinful activities that the culture deems normal. Unbelievers are surprised when we don't join them. Now Peter tells believers to not be surprised. Same Greek word, when they experience suffering for Jesus. There was this belief back in the ancient world, Jewish and Greco-Roman, there was this belief that if you experience suffering, it means that God or the gods are angry at you. You're being punished for some sin, and that's why you're suffering. And while yes, there is some validity to that, yes, some suffering sometimes is a result of personal sin. That's true sometimes. That isn't the kind of suffering that Peter's talking about. Peter's audience is suffering for their allegiance to Jesus specifically, which isn't shocking. Like Jesus told them that this would happen. They're suffering not just for their allegiance to Jesus, which leads to their disassociation with the world. They are to be in the world, but not of it, Jesus says. And Jesus prepared them for this. Like, this shouldn't be shocking to them. Jesus said this would happen. If you follow me, as the world hated me, it will hate you. John 15, verse 18. We follow a crucified Christ. So by definition, being a Christian isn't going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. But when we do suffer, Peter says it is not pointless. It's not pointless. This is God testing us. God is testing you. Throughout the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, what we call the Old Testament, God tests his people as a way to reveal the truth about them. He tests his people to reveal the truth about them. Tests are like fires, right? They burn away. They reveal what's underneath the surface. And hopefully, like a fire, the test that you experience will purify you. Hopefully, like fire, it will purify you. Fire burns away the stuff that won't last, and it purifies the stuff that will last. Does that make sense? Fire burns away the stuff that will not last into the new creation, but it purifies the stuff that will last. Zechariah chapter 13, God says that he tests and refines his people. And the Greek version of Zechariah 13 uses the exact same words that Peter uses here, test and refine. Malachi chapter 4, it's a great passage, write it down, read it later. In verses 1 through 4, it says that God comes to his temple to purify his people. God comes to his temple to purify his people. Malachi chapter 4. The temple, it was like a mini Garden of Eden because, it was the place where heaven met earth. It was the place where God came to dwell with humanity. Because if you did not know this, the purpose of God's goal in the story of the Bible, is not to get humans out of this world to go to a place called heaven when they die. The Bible does not teach that. God's goal in the Bible is to reunite all of heaven and earth, all of his space and our space. That is God's goal in the Bible. It's not to get humans out of this world to go to heaven. It's to bring heaven and earth back together again, his space and our space. And so the temple was like a mini Eden. It was the place where heaven and earth met. It's where God comes to dwell with humans. And Malachi 4, the prophet says that God is going to visit his temple and purify his people. That's a pencil. Anyway, so, oh my jiggles. Okay, she's not going to have that. Anyway, that was scary, but you were on it. I saw you. You were looking. Anyway, so, and here's the thing about the temple. The ultimate temple, the true temple that all the other temples, the previous ones were pointing to, is Jesus himself. Jesus is the ultimate meeting place of heaven and earth. He is the place where God's space and human space dwell together perfectly and permanently. He is the place where humans and God come together forever. Oh, is that a pen? Where are you getting all these writing utensils? What? Is there anything else back here? I guess not. We'll see. Anyway, so the ultimate temple is Jesus. John 1:14 says, the Word became flesh and tabernacled among us, templed among us. So Jesus and his people. So not just Jesus, his people are the ultimate temple. You are the place where heaven meets earth. If you've been filled with God's Spirit, if you're in Jesus, you have his Spirit, you are the place where heaven meets earth. The same way that Jesus is the temple, you are the temple. You are the temple. If you have God's Spirit, you are the place where heaven meets earth. The past temples, they were just shadows pointing to the substance. So here's the point. Here's what Peter's saying. Suffering is not a sign of God's absence. It's a sign of his purifying presence. It's not a sign of God's absence. It's a sign of his purifying presence. God is using this to purify you, follower of Jesus. He's using it to purify you. And it doesn't mean that God caused it. It doesn't mean that God necessarily caused what's happening to you. He didn't make these people persecute you, but he is using it. He is using this in your life to make you more like Jesus. Our trials are tests. It's the same Greek word, pierasmon, test or trials, the same word. So instead of being shocked that God would allow his child, me, to suffer, instead we should rejoice, Peter says. Rejoice. We should celebrate. It's the Greek word karete, and it means throw a party. Throw a party. Don't be surprised that you're suffering. Instead, throw a party. We get to suffer with our King who suffered for us, and we share in his sufferings when we suffer for living like him. I'll say that again. We share in the sufferings of Jesus when we suffer because we live like him. Peter says we should rejoice so that we may rejoice in the future. Rejoice now, he says, so that you may be able to rejoice in the future. Peter says we will one day have joy in God's presence when Jesus returns at the revelation of his glory. So as we share in his shame now, we will share in his honor. Does that make sense? As you share in Jesus' shame now, you will share in his honor. His doxa, his glory is the Greek word. So rejoice, follower of Jesus. Rejoice. This is hard. What you're going through is really hard, but it's making you into the person you will one day become. It's making you into the person you will one day become. Because when Jesus returns, we will rejoice. And that is a party that will never end. If we're insulted by others, if people verbally abuse you because you follow Jesus, then Peter says, you're blessed. You're blessed. God is not absent from you. He is very, very present. Here, one second. Let me pull out the bears. Okay. Hey, sweetie. See, I told you, this is either going to be my shortest sermon or my longest sermon. So we shall see. We shall see, won't we? While we're doing this, how's everyone's day going? Oh, thank you for being verbal. All right, here you go, sweetie.
Well, thank you for being verbal.
You like your turtle? Okay, yes. All right, don't swallow it. All right, so here's the thing. She won't actually swallow it. It's too big. Oh, you want me, sweetie? Hey, it's okay. Hey, come here. It's okay. I know. You miss mama. So here's what he says. Peter says, we're blessed. If you're insulted, if people verbally abuse you because you follow Jesus, in that moment, you're actually blessed. God is not absent. He is very much present. Oh, is she doing the head thing? Where she goes, the drama. The drama. You get it from me, don't you? Not from your mom. You get it from me. Hey. Here, Nick, could you kill the lights? Okay. Yeah, that'll help her. Yeah, it's okay if the live stream quality is not good. That's all right. It's okay. They can still hear my voice. And they can hear your voice. Yeah? Okay, now it's getting dark. I'm getting scared. All right, let's keep going. So, and here's the thing. This line, if you're insulted, you're blessed. Peter actually didn't come up with this himself. He got it from Jesus, who said, blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad. It's the same words Peter used. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. And again, that doesn't mean that your reward is heaven. Your reward's being kept in heaven. Heaven's like a bank where God is storing the earth's future good. So it's the exact same Greek phrases. Peter got this from Jesus. Now that Greek word for blessed, I think I have it up there. The Greek word is makarios in Greek. Can you guys say makarios? I love that word. It literally means flourishing. You're flourishing. Blessing, it's a state of human flourishing. It's what happens to humans when God approves of them as they're living under his reign. You flourish. You're blessed. In Hebrew, it's the word ashrei, happy. You're happy. These are the kind of people who release the life of Eden. These are the kind of people who spread heaven on earth. Blessed people are the ones who release the life of Eden, who spread heaven on earth. So in the very moment that you are being... We interrupt this broadcast. Hey, what's up, sweetie? Hey. You want to fly for a second? Hey. Yeah. Is that better? You good now? Okay, you're not good. All right, so it's okay. Here. Let me see. Let's see real quick. What's that? She was happy with what? Where's that? Oh, there it is. Okay. Thank you, Charlie. Oh, what would I do without you? Yes. If without you, I'd probably just ask my wife. Anyway, okay, so.
Your wife's not here.
I know, stop reminding me. Anyway, so. Hey, baby, you're okay. Here. I'm going to get you something. Like I said, is that going to be my shortest or my longest? Here. No, I'm good. I think I'm good. Here, sweetie, what's in here? What did Mama leave you? What did Mama leave you? Hey, here we go. Here, you want this? Oh, yeah. Here you go, sweetie. Hey, there you go. Hey, I promise I'll be done in about 10 minutes, okay? Okay? Unless these sinners ask questions. All right, so I'm totally kidding. That was a joke. Y'all aren't sinners, you're saints who sin. All right, so here's Peter's point. In the moment that you are being insulted, in the moment that you're having insults thrown at you because of the name of Messiah, in that moment, how you respond in that moment can release heaven on earth. That's what it means to be blessed even when you're being insulted. In that very moment, how you respond can release heaven on earth. That's what he's saying. And how is that even possible? Peter says it's because the spirit of glory, the spirit of honor, the spirit of doxa rest on you. Now, Peter, hey. What's up? You want to stay up here with me? Here, why don't you look at this? I know screens are bad. We'll make an exception. Do you want me to turn on Bluey? I'm just kidding. No, we're not going to do that. All right, so now here's the thing about Peter. Peter lived in what we would call today an honor-shame culture, an honor-shame society. Because the worst thing that could happen to you in that society is not that you die. The worst thing that could happen to you is that you bring shame on yourself or on your family. So followers of Jesus in this moment in the first century, they are having shame cast on them because they follow a crucified king. Because they don't live like the world, they are being ashamed. But in reality, in that moment, the spirit of honor is resting on them. Because here's the thing, you guys, our king was enthroned on a cross. I don't know if you realize that. Our king was enthroned on a cross. And so if that is true, he can redefine honor. He redefines what it means to have honor. True honor, I think I wrote this up here for you at the bottom. True honor is being put to shame for the Messiah. That's what Peter's saying. True honor is when you are put to shame for the Messiah. Now, my Bible and your Bible, an English Bible, probably says the word Christ. Probably doesn't say the word Messiah. It probably says Christ. And Christ, Christos, that's a Greek translation of a Hebrew word, Mashiach, which means Messiah, the anointed one. Now, Bible trivia question. 2 kinds of people were anointed with oil in the Old Testament. What 2 people were those? Kings and priests. Yep, kings and priests were anointed with oil. So God's people, what's that? Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah. It's not, I don't want anything of hers to touch the ground. Anyway, so, because it's all on the ground. Anyway, so just go ahead, just put it right on the ground. It's okay, sweetie. Let's give you 1 second. Let's see if you'll fall asleep. Oh, I know. Any questions about what we've been talking about so far? Anything? What? I know. It's okay. If she actually falls asleep, I will whisper the rest of the sermon. Yeah. Yes. And then Jared will come out here and start screaming worship. It'll be great. Yes. Hey. It's okay. Shh. Okay. We good? Yeah? I hear you. Life is rough. Huh? It's drooping. Okay, yeah, it is. We're going to do the nose thing. You guys are all witnessing a miracle right now. Take it in. Yes, the Lord is good. She's going to immediately start crying. Yes. And it's going to be hilarious. Hey, sweetie. You're okay. I thought that would help. Sorry, it did not help. Hey, it's okay. So there were 2 kinds of people who were anointed with oil in the Old Testament. What were those 2? Charlie, you said them. Yeah, say them again. Priests and kings. Yeah, priests and kings. those who mediated the reign of God, and those who mediated the presence of God to other people. They were anointed with oil. When something is anointed with oil in the Bible, a person, a place, or a thing, it is to be a bridge between heaven and earth. And so God's people, Israel, they were waiting. They were waiting for a royal priest to come, the Messiah, the anointed one, a future king from the line of David. This is the Christ. This is the Messiah. This is Jesus. But question, we never saw Jesus in the Gospels. If you read the 4 accounts of his life, the 4 biographies, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you never see Jesus get anointed with oil. Jesus gets anointed with something else. What does Jesus get anointed with? What's that? With the foot? Yeah, with that? No, yeah. Yes, and that's following this theme, this design pattern, but not that one I'm referring to, but that was a really good guess. But that is technically right, yes. What's that? Think early in his ministry, very early. What happens to Jesus? He's baptized, yeah, and then what happens to him? What's that? Hey, you gonna fall asleep? Hey, Jared, you got the voice of an angel. Can you start singing to her? That'd be amazing. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. She's just like, Dad, I just want you to shut up. It's okay. It's okay, sweetie. It's okay. I know. Hey, it's okay. Nick, I really hope the live stream is picking all this up. I can't wait to show Elizabeth at home. This is awesome.
I'm going to remind her of this in 15 years, by the way.
Oh, yes. Who, Elizabeth or City? Or me? Oh, okay, yeah. Because I'm going to surely forget. So, this is the Christ. This is Jesus, the Messiah. We never saw Jesus anointed with oil, but we did see Jesus anointed with something else at his baptism. Not water, but what comes on Jesus? What comes on Jesus? The Spirit, exactly. Yeah, the Spirit. What anoints Jesus in the Bible? The Spirit, water and Spirit. So now, if you are in Jesus, if you're a follower of Jesus, you get his anointing. You have the Spirit of God. We have the Spirit of God. It's dwelling inside of us because we are God's temple. We are the meeting place of heaven and earth. He rests on us, Peter says. And that's a Garden of Eden word. As God rested on the 7th day, filling creation with his presence, now his Spirit rests on us. We are the temple. Oh, bless you, Kenzie. That was so powerful. Anyway, so there's a passage in the Old Testament, Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 through 3. You can go read those later, but Isaiah 11, it talks about this king who's coming. He's called the branch of Jesse. You know who Jesse is? He's right over there. Yeah. David's dad, David's papa. Yes. So David's dad, Jesse. So there's this figure coming, this king. Isaiah calls him the branch of Jesse. He's like a tree. He's a king coming from Jesse's line. He's like a new David. He's like a new David, this tree branch. And it's the Messiah. And this is what Isaiah says about him in Isaiah 11. He says, the Spirit of the Lord will rest on him. Rest on him. So the Spirit rests on Jesus. And if I'm in Jesus, what's true of him has become true of me. And if that's true, Peter says, the Spirit rests on you. Does that make sense? Are we catching the connection? The Spirit rests on Jesus. I'm in Jesus, so the Spirit now rests on me. What's true of him has become true of me. Jesus is the meeting place of heaven and earth, anointed with God's Spirit. I am now, you and I, together, we are the meeting place of heaven and earth, anointed, filled with the Spirit of God. And so if all that is true, Peter says, we should suffer because we're following Jesus. We shouldn't suffer for stupid, sinful things that we do. There's a sinful way to suffer, and you're not going to get a blessing for that. There's no blessing for that. But there is a righteous way to suffer. Suffer for following Jesus, not for doing stupid, sinful things. Don't suffer, Peter says, as a murderer. Like Cain, he suffered, but as a murderer. Don't suffer for that. Don't suffer as a thief or an evildoer or a meddler. That's a Greek word. It just means an annoying person, someone who's annoying. Yes, don't suffer as an annoying person. Don't be annoying, dude. You don't have to be annoying. All right, so he says, but if anyone should suffer as a Christian, don't be ashamed of that. Don't be ashamed of suffering as a Christian. The word Christian, we are slides behind. All right, spoiler alert. Okay, here we go. Is that the right one? Yes. The word Christian, we're Christians. The Bible is the Christian Bible. But the word Christian only appears 3 times in the New Testament. Twice in the book of Acts, and then here. And it isn't how followers of Jesus referred to themselves. If you actually look at the early church, you read the New Testament, they wouldn't call themselves Christians. They would call themselves saints or disciples, apprentices, or followers of the way. That's how Christians referred to themselves. They didn't use this word. The word Christianoi, that was originally an insult that was used by outsiders. They would insult them by calling them Christianoi. It means someone in the close party of Christ. That's what it means. Like a Herodian is someone in the close party of Herod. A Christianoi is someone in the close party of Christ, a Christian. And this was an insult that was used by outsiders, by unbelievers. Here's what Peter's saying. You are a Christian. You are a Messiah person. The word Christ is Messiah. You're a Messiah person. And to be the Messiah is to be the suffering one, the one who suffers outside of Eden and endures the test on behalf of others. That's Christ, and you are a Christian. You are a follower of that Christ, which means as he suffered, so will you. It is necessary that we go through suffering because our King did, and we follow him. And eventually, I think we have evidence about the second century, basically about 70 years after Peter writes this. Ignatius, this church theologian, early church father, he started using this title for himself. Around the 2nd century, the followers of Jesus, they began wearing that insult like a badge of honor. They would say, yeah, we're Christians. Yeah, it was an insult, but they would wear it like a badge of honor. And that's what Peter tells them to do here. Don't be ashamed for suffering like a Christian. Honor God in that name. Don't be ashamed of associating with the crucified Messiah. That is an honor to be associated with the one who suffered and died for you. For, Peter says, God's judgment begins in God's house. Or his household is the same word. Maybe your translation says house or household. It's the same word. In the Old Testament, God's house was his temple. It was the temple. That was the house of God. But in the New Testament, it's us. We are the household of God. We are the house of God. We are the temple of God. That word house, it could be translated house, but it could also be translated as household, like a family. Here's what Peter's saying. God is going to judge the world, and it begins now with his own family, in his own house. Does that make sense? It's like that passage we read, Malachi 4, where God cleanses his temple before he purifies his people. He cleanses the temple before he judges the nations. He deals with his own people first. So here's the point. God is using this suffering to purify us. He is using the suffering that we're going through to make us into the kinds of people who will be fit to rule the new creation when Jesus returns. And this is judgment. This is God's judgment. This is how God judges his people, by making them into new kinds of humans who can receive the inheritance that he has for them. Does that make sense? He wants to make us fit to receive that inheritance. It would be like, if you give your child their inheritance way too early before they're responsible enough to manage it, then that would not be good. That would not be good for that child or for your estate. If you're from Downton Abbey, you know what I mean? So here's the point. Peter's saying we will experience that future judgment one day when we're resurrected. We're not exempt from God's judgment. The Bible's very clear. Followers of Jesus will be judged, and more strictly because we're God's people. We're his children. We're his house. We're his temple. He will purify his temple before he judges the nations. We will experience that judgment one day when we stand resurrected, but it begins right now, and it comes through suffering. It comes through suffering like Jesus. It comes through a test of fire. That is how we become the kind of people who are fit to receive the inheritance God has for us. That is how we become our true selves. And if this, Peter says, is how God judges his own people, then what will happen to those who don't obey the good news, the gospel, the evangelion? What will happen to them? If this is what happens to Christians who suffer as Christ did, then what about all those people, the people who don't confess Jesus as Lord? What will happen to them? And then Peter quotes here Proverbs chapter 11, verse 31. He quotes the Greek version. He says, if those who are righteous, if those who do right by God and do right by others, if those people are saved with difficulty, meaning as in they're saved with suffering, it's very difficult. Their salvation is very difficult. It's with suffering. Then what will happen to the ungodly and the sinner? If those who do right by God and who do right by others are saved with difficulty, as in with great suffering, then what will happen to the ungodly and the sinner? Peter's point is it's going to be bad. It's not going to be very pleasant. God will give them over to what they want, to their own self-destruction. That's God's wrath in the Bible. It's not him so much doing anything, like with his hand. It's more him taking his hand away and allowing people to experience the just consequences of their own choices. God gives them over to what they want, to their own self-destruction. That's God's judgment. And that's what's going to happen to the ungodly and the sinner, the one who does not follow Jesus and give their allegiance to him. So Peter says, don't go with them. Don't go with them. The early Christians in the first century, they would have been very tempted to leave this whole Jesus thing behind, because then they wouldn't be social outcasts anymore. The world would accept them. They would have an easier life. And so Peter's saying, don't go with them. Follow Jesus. And yes, following Jesus, it does mean that you will suffer. You will suffer. And you will have to sacrifice things you don't want to sacrifice. But it's worth it. It's so worth it because you get Jesus. And it's temporary. Peter says it's temporary. It leads to honor. It leads to joy. It leads to blessing. It leads to you becoming truly human, to you becoming your true self, who Jesus was on your behalf, the image of God. That Jesus is the image of God. We're made in God's image. He was for us what we can never be for ourselves. And if you follow Jesus through suffering, if you follow him, despite what it might cost you, I promise you, you are becoming your true self, who Jesus was on your behalf. Your humanity is being restored. You are becoming truly human, and heaven is spreading to earth through you. So, Peter ends, last verse. He says, if it is God's will that you endure suffering as a follower of Jesus, whether that is verbal abuse or violent hostility, Peter says, keep doing good. Keep doing good. Don't try to be God and redefine good and evil for yourself. That's what the first humans did. They grabbed the knowledge of good and evil. They grabbed at it. And that was, basically in the Eden story, God saw that it was good. It says all throughout Genesis 1, God saw that it was good. So he is the one that defines what is good and not good. But then we get to Eve, and she saw that the fruit of the tree was good for gaining wisdom. Even though God said it was evil and it would lead to death, she saw it as good for gaining wisdom apart from God. She is trying to be God. She is trying to do what God did. And here's what happens. She redefines good and evil for herself, and it's to her own self-destruction. So Peter's saying, do good. And what does it mean to do good? It means to listen to God's life-giving word, his word that leads to life. God said he saw that it was good. His word defines that which is good and leads to life and flourishing. Follow his word. Don't, like in the book of Judges we've been reading on Sunday mornings, don't do that which is good in your eyes, because it might be evil in God's eyes. Do good, Peter says, while entrusting your soul, your life, your psyche, your life. Your soul in the Bible, it's not this immaterial, immortal part of you that lives on after you die. The Bible actually doesn't teach that. That's a Greek philosophical concept. That is not a Jewish or Christian idea. The soul is the whole person. You are a soul. Humans don't have souls. The Bible says humans are souls. And what is a soul? A soul is a living, breathing, physical being. That's what a soul is. That's why animals are souls in the Bible. They're living, breathing, physical beings. So we are soul, and we are to entrust our soul. Even as we're being persecuted, even as people are trying to kill us, we are to entrust our very lives, our living, breathing, physical beings, all that we are. We're to entrust our lives to a faithful Creator. The last thing that Jesus said before he died was, Father, Abba, into your hands I entrust my spirit, my breath. It's the same Greek word. I entrust my spirit. Jesus saw God as Father, and he saw God as a faithful Creator. As Creator, God is sovereign. He sees all the suffering that you and I endure, and he does not delight in it, but know this, nothing is allowed to befall you without his permission. Nothing is allowed to befall you without his permission. And he's faithful. He's not just sovereign. He's not just the Creator. He is the faithful Creator. He is faithful to his promises, and he is faithful to his people. He hasn't left you. He has not left you. He will give you the strength that you need to endure this, even if that's through death. Resurrection is coming. We have a living hope. Our hope is not a vague optimism. It's not a blind wishful thinking. It's a person, and he's alive. Resurrection's coming. So here's the message. Here's the message of 1 Peter. Very simply, be a Christian. Be a Christian and suffer well. This is what it means to be a Christian. Be a Christian by suffering well. Let's pray real quick. Father, thank you so much for this evening. God, I thank you for I thank you for my daughter. I thank you for the gift of getting to do ministry with her. And God, we're about to enter into this sacred moment of taking the bread and the cup. And I'm just reminded every time I do this, Lord, that, Father, you sent your child to die for me and to rise for me so that I, your enemy, might become a child of God. And when I look at my daughter's face, I don't think I could have done that. I could not imagine myself sending my daughter to die for a person like me. So thank you, Lord. Every time we take the bread and the cup, we remember, Jesus, your sacrifice, the Father's sacrifice, and we thank you. We thank you That's what the word Eucharist means. It means to give thanks. We thank you for your body and your blood shed for us that we might have life, true life. Not just existence, but what Jesus called the abundant life. What Genesis 1 calls blessing, the life of Eden, a life permeated with the presence of God. A life permeated with the presence of God. And that might not always look like prosperity and good days. It might look like horrible suffering. It might look like carrying a cross. It might look like dying. But in that moment, God, you remind us through your servant Peter, in that moment we are blessed. In that moment we are imitating King Jesus, who is enthroned on a cross. In that moment we are, even when we're being cursed, we're being blessed. Even when we're being ashamed, the spirit of glory and honor rests on us in that moment. In that moment, God, you are making us our true selves. In that moment, heaven is spreading to earth. So Jesus, I just pray for all of us tonight. I don't know where we are in our walk with you, but I do know that you call every single person who will hear, everyone who has ears to hear, you call them to come and follow you, to be your apprentice, your disciple, someone whose sole goal in life is to be with Jesus, become like Jesus, and do the things Jesus did. To find, to rediscover, restore, to have their humanity restored by following the one who was for me what I couldn't be for myself. And so, Lord, I pray tonight, Lord, I don't know everyone here well enough to know what they're going through, but I do pray, Lord, if someone is here who has not repented and believed, who has not turned from their sin, turned from all the ways that we redefine good and evil for ourselves, and not turned to you, God, and placed your faith, placed their faith, their trust, their allegiance, their believing loyalty in the King who loved them and gave his life for them. I pray they would do that tonight. I pray they would turn from their sin and turn to you, Jesus, and give their allegiance to you and come into your kingdom, come under your reign, come into God's family, become a child of God, find freedom and life in your reign and in your family, in your temple where your Spirit dwells. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And so, Lord, if there's someone here tonight, Lord, that's going through some real suffering in their life, they're discouraged because they're walking with Jesus and they're going against the tide of the world. And I know that just like in the first century, same as in the 21st century, it is hard to follow you, King Jesus. And we will go through things that are similar and different to what our brothers and sisters go through, that have gone through in the first century and around the world today. People are losing their lives for following you, Jesus, because they've counted the cost. And they've said, yes, Jesus is worth losing everything for. And we believe that, Lord. I believe that. I believe that. I believe, Jesus, that you are someone worth losing everything for. And so if we have to suffer for you, if we have to follow you and pick up our cross and follow you, Lord, it is worth it. It is worth it because we get you, Jesus, because we get Jesus. So, Lord, I just pray, whoever might be feeling discouraged in their walk with you tonight, feeling apathetic, feeling just down and just depressed because following you is hard and they're experiencing that, Lord, I just pray, like your word says, you would remind us that we are blessed if we are imitating you. We are blessed when we suffer. We are blessed, we are flourishing, though outwardly it might not look like that. We are flourishing. So, Lord, remind that to the weary soul tonight. Remind them that you provide them with rest and that anything they have to lose for following you, Jesus, is worth it. It's so worth it. So, Lord, I love these people. I love them so much. And I just pray as we continue to seek you in this time, go before your throne, and come and take of the tree of life. As we take the bread and the cup, I pray we would examine our hearts. We love you so much. Take a few moments and keep praying. Keep praying, just you and Jesus. Up here on the stage, there is a basket with little cups that have the little wafer on it, the bread and the juice. And so in a few minutes, Caleb's going to come up and he's going to lead us in taking the bread and the cup. But I would just encourage you guys in this time just to be with Jesus and whatever business you need to do with him. I pray you do that right now. Whatever it is, whether it's confessing sin, whether it's receiving him as Lord, whether it's just saying thank you. I haven't thanked you today, God, for all the blessings you've given me. I want to thank you. Whatever it is, maybe you just need to meditate on Scripture for a few seconds. We're not in a hurry tonight. God's not in a hurry. We're not in a hurry. But this moment, the Scriptures say, it's like the tree of life. If this is the Garden of Eden, if this is the temple, if this is where heaven meets earth, if this is Eden, then what we're about to do is take of the tree of life. We're about to take of Jesus. And so I would just encourage you guys, just take a few moments, just you and the Lord, and and just pray and ask the Lord to lead you in this time and to make you aware of anything in your life you need to talk with him through. Again, that doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be a very positive thing. But just take that time, just you and Jesus in the quiet. We don't get a lot of quiet. Jesus often withdrew to the eremos, the quiet place. We don't often do that. And so this is one of the rare opportunities throughout the week that we can be in just complete silence and just be with the Lord. And then when you are ready, you can come up, walk up here, take one of these, head back to your seat. And in a few minutes, Caleb will come up and he will lead us. And then when he is done with that, Jared will come up and he will lead us in song in response.